Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here, and welcome to my review for the first episode of Power Rangers Beast Morpher. A new era has begun, and it is off to a very solid start. I really enjoyed this episode a lot. Still going to remain cautiously optimistic because I think that Dino Charge and, Ninja Steel, even within its first two episodes, had a decent start. So time will tell, as we go on into the series when we get more into the main status quo. But as far as a pilot, I thought this was really, really cool. Let's go ahead and get into it. So we kind of established what we knew from the premise, which is, it's supposedly a little bit in the future. I don't remember them saying that at all, but it's kind of implied from things. But, kind of like GoBusters use Enertron as this, new energy source. We're using Morph X, and it's kind of saying, well, not kind of, it is. The grid battle force is tapping into the morphing grid to essentially create a renewable source of energy similar to Enertron. Obviously, we knew the premise, but I think seeing it in action, I think it's really neat the way they took the idea from GoBusters of Enertron and tied it to something in the Power Rangers mythology. It kind of reminds me of the Disney adaptation style, where you're using something so that you can potentially make use of footage that may, lean towards that, or stuff like the energy towers, but tying it to something Power Rangers related makes it feel different. And it's just kind of neat to see from my side, since I'm familiar with GoBusters and seeing how they twist it. So I really like that, and not only just setting aside the GoBusters part, but I like that it makes it feel immediately grounded in the world of Power Rangers. Mega Force did, because they mentioned Zordon inherently and it was anniversary-esque. Dino Charge we didn't know for the longest time it was set in our universe. And it wasn't until really Dimensions in Danger that we knew Ninja Steel was in the Prime universe. And this one immediately makes you feel like we're in a Power Rangers series in the mythology. And it's an interesting thought of, the world reacting to the Power Rangers by trying to take advantage of their morphing grid. And I think that's conveyed really well, and it creates an interesting concept. We're introduced to a few of our main characters here at the beginning at a studio, like a gym studio. We got Travis, Devin, our Red Ranger, is in a class taught by Blaze, who is the original Red Ranger candidate. And I'm not sure how intentional it was, because I don't want to be that person that thinks there's references everywhere. But the whole scene kind of reminded me of Day of the Dumpster, when Jason was teaching karate and Bulk kind of was getting in his face and he was showing karate moves to him. I don't know how intentional that was. I felt like it was just because it's a new era, and I felt like there was a weird mirroring to it, with almost Blaze taking the role of Bulk, being kind of the bully in this sense. But I liked it. I liked the idea of this being the hangout and incorporating karate, and it established early that why Devin would be martial arts inclined, which was neat, and kind of gave you an idea that it was definitely not definitely kind of, those are opposing ideas, but Blaze reminded me of Jared, in the sense that he was the original Red Ranger candidate from Jungle Fury, but then was kind of a jerk and then ended up not happening, although it was a lot less, he was kind of a jerk, but it wasn't completely obvious like Jared, where Jared's I hate people. That's not what he said, but you know what I mean. I felt it was he was less of a jerk. But it established that dynamic. I established me liking Devin's personality right away. You had Roxy and Ravi there as well, so it established why Devin knew them from that preview clip. And then his dad comes to get him, who's the mayor, which we knew, and he's talking about well, why are you here instead of this job interview, and it kind of set up this little character arc of Devin about, he's got potential, what's he going to do with it? And so his father is going to Grid Battle Force to basically check out what they're doing. Devin's not supposed to go, but he sneaks in. This is when we get a look at the comedic duo. I can't remember their names at the moment, because I don't even remember them being spoken. I'll learn them eventually, probably. But they're security at Grid Battle Force, which I have mixed thoughts on them. I think that using them as a distraction, their antics for his dad, as a way for Devin to get into the base, it was nice, because it made them feel like a natural part of the plot. I did feel like it broke up the tone a little bit, mainly because, we're just establishing it, and there was a split second when they first started their antics. Again, I just felt it broke the flow. But it's way too early to be too harsh on them, or say, I do like them better than Victor and Monty right off the bat, just because them working there, I feel, not only establishes them as a natural part of the world, but I think it gives them potential to have moments later where they actually end up being heroic and maybe seeing their growth in a way, and I find them at least likable-ish, and it wasn't too heavy-handed. So I don't want to get too, you know, in on that. I'll need to see more from them in general. Again, I just felt it broke the flow just a smidge, but it also was natural to the plot. So that's why we saw how Devin got in there, and because he wants to see the grid battle force like simulation where the Rangers are going to train, like because it's a video game, because they established he's good at video games, martial arts. When we're in there with the dad, we meet Zoe, who's working in the laundry department. We establish that she has ambition to work as a Grid Battle Force cadet, but she's starting, you know, paying her dues starting from the library, the library of clothes, aka laundry. So that was neat, and they kind of established her personality. She's like, oh, I have all these ideas for like motorcycles and all these other toys, and so you get the idea that she might be involved in making some of the Rangers gadgets and stuff later. So then, like, the mayor dad, MD, is meeting with the commander, and they're talking about it. I thought it was kind of a cool twist that, I mean, he's the mayor, so I didn't expect him to be evil or anything. But, I mean, usually you'll have, like, a dad character like that where he'll be like, yes, take advantage of this. But I liked that he actually had reservations about the dangers of using the morphing grid. I just felt it was a nice twist from usually these types of characters either being all in, like a general type, like from RPM, or somebody that just wants to take advantage of it. You know, about the money and the power. And I thought it was actually nice that he was level-headed, and I thought that was just a nice twist on what I was expecting. Because he was like, yeah, this is dangerous, people are going to come after this, remember all the villains, and he name drops Rita, Sledge, and Galvanax. And I like how right before that he said from all dimensions, so like it makes sense why he would be mentioning Sledge, because he's from a different dimension, and Sledge traveled to this dimension. So again, firmly establishing it in our world. But then they try to sort of assuage they're like, look, we can assuage all your worries by look at these toys. And he's like, ooh, it's gonna be fine. And they're like, here's the candidates, but you can't know who they are, and they're like kind of covered. And then you have a scene, I can't remember this, it might have been out of order a little bit, but there's a scene after they're revealed, you know, obviously to be Blaze, Roxy, and Ravi, between Ravi and Roxy, that establishes that they have a relationship, or had a relationship, but Ravi broke it off because there's no fraternization between Rangers. Again, it establishes a nice potential character arcs for both of them, so that was really nice. I appreciated that. I don't remember seeing anything or any theories about that earlier. Then, you know, we have that scene where Devin is spying, and he's like, oh cool, Rangers and stuff, because basically the okay, so I'm going out of order a little bit, sorry. But when she's explaining to them like about like assuaging their worries of the toys, she's like, we're gonna create our own Rangers, so it's gonna be fine. And that's when Devin was spying. But then, you know, the mayor left after that because he wasn't in the scene where he gets caught. But what I find funny about that is that his concern is like, oh, like, if we create this power, then villains are gonna come after it, just like they did with the other Rangers. And they're like, no, it's fine, we have Rangers. So it's going to be the exact same situation where the villains are after the Rangers' power, as opposed to your worries where the villains are just after an organization's powers. Totally different. He's like, totes, got it. But yeah, so as we saw in the preview clip, Devin gets caught. He sees like the Evox virus go into the tube, and like the snake, he tries to warn him. They're like, oh, you don't know anything. We know more than you. And then they put him in a cell. And then the Rangers are going in for the testing. And the virus starts corrupting, even though like the commander asked Nate to, Nate also, we were introduced to him as our, you know, tech lab guy, and he's going to be a main character too, and the presumed Gold Ranger, the heir apparent. And so he's like, oh yeah, everything's fine, no worries, no viruses, let's run the tests, begin the download. They also show off the transporter, which comes in hand later, and was probably a little nod to the transport. But they start doing like the Ranger download. They explain like we're going to channel through the animal DNA, and the virus starts corrupting. It corrupts Blaze and Roxy, and like what you see is like it goes whoosh, actual sound effect. No, but then like Blaze's body falls over, and it creates a digital avatar of him with like you see his actual human face, and he puts the helmet on. Roxy's isn't the same. I'm really curious if they'll ever address that, because Blaze's clearly looks like a Ranger. He straight up puts on a helmet, whereas Roxy's is just like a robot, you know, humanoid monster. I hope that's addressed, mainly because I think there's interesting things to be played there, both with like the access to the morphing grid, and then the whole thing is that Roxy and Ravi can't be together, and if this avatar has the same feelings as Roxy, she could be like, hey, I'm not a Ranger now. I'm an evil robot psycho, but we could totes be together. I just used totes twice in this run, I apologize. But yeah, so they're corrupted. when all this glitching is going out, all the systems go haywire, so Devin's able to escape because the door glitches, and he witnesses this because there's like, oh, over the PA there's like, there's an attack in the room! Just the room, that's what it's called. Oh, hi, Mark. Zoe hears it too, and she decides to not run from fear, and so that's why they're both there. There was a nice little moment where she said, like, or he said, are you security? She says, no, not exactly, or something. He says, what about you? And he's like, a stowaway, or a stowaway. I mean, when you say an intruder, it just kind of reminded me of, like, the stowaway aspect of Leo from Lost Galaxy. Like, I don't think it was a reference, but it just gave me that vibe for a split second. Anyway. But so he saves Ravi, because I was wondering, like, well, how is Ravi not going to get taken as an avatar? I thought maybe, like, Nate was going to do something, or the system was going to glitch out, but it was actually Devin who used a blaster to cut the flow of the virus off to the Morphin chamber. And so Ravi was saved via that. We get the scene from the preview clip where they civilian fight against the two new avatars. And then they kind of push him towards the Morph-X machine, and in order to save them, Nate, like, he fires at a, like, banner or a beam, ooh, sorry mate, base, a base above the Morph machine, and it cuts off, like, Roxy's tentacle things, and then he activates the Morph machine, morphing the Rangers. I'm curious how they got the energy there since Devin cut off the tube, but yeah, that's just from that preview clip that makes them all three Rangers. Then they fight them, and it establishes their unique powers, like as per Go Busters, like red speed, blue strength, yellow's kind of agility with the jackrabbit thing. And they're like, okay, we need to transport them out of here. We get a little bit look at the weapons and stuff, and they you know, use those transporters they established earlier to port the Blaze and Roxy avatars away. We then get kind of an explainer about, like, you know, basically whatever infected them created evil avatar twin clones, and meanwhile they're in comas, and they're put in these like coma machines, you know, technical terms, that very much remind me of Zane's coma machine. Again, I don't know how intentional that was, but that's kind of interesting. And then basically they say, you know, now you are the Rangers and have to protect us, more or less. So that was the summary review. But I really enjoyed this. I think it did a good job of immediately establishing potential, like, character arcs for them across the season, you know, with Devin trying to find something to do, with Zoe wanting to be a part of this and being able to prove herself and now be a part of it, and of course potentially use her smarts to help with gadgets. Ravi obviously is a little bit more of the straightforward, like, you know, dutiful Ranger, but like his arc with Roxy. Roxy as well, because even though they're evil clones, I'm going to assume that creates interesting conflict because Roxy might still have feelings for Ravi. They kind of established a rivalry between Blaze and Devin. I keep forgetting Devin's name, and I don't know why, and I always think of it. I just keep wanting to call him Red. But I think it was really solid in that aspect, and I really liked how they established it, making it feel like it was in the Power Rangers universe. It established a lot of early questions about, like, Evox and stuff, which I think is cool. Like, I'm a little mixed on the way Blaze and Woxy were created. Not like so negatively, but I think it was really interesting to create that dynamic of them being the original candidates. I love that a lot. But the only thing I fear about that is, like, making them evil twin avatars just kind of removes the responsibility from the actual humans, and I feel like it negates the possibility of having a true evil Ranger throughout the whole series, because I thought this would be funny if Blaze was our first evil Ranger for the start to finish, for Sentai Rangers, period. But it kind of just removes that responsibility. I'll be interested to see where it goes. Like at the end, Zoe said, like, oh, you know, we'll be glad to take their place in the meantime, which makes me think there might be a time where they wake up and they try to take the powers back, and it could either be for real or it could be a ruse. You know, like, oh yeah, we're cured now, totes guys, we need the yellow and red Morphers back, and then they, you know, take them and they're like, no, we're not cured, wahaha, that's evil laugh. But yeah, I really liked this episode a ton. I thought it was very solid. Other small notes is, I did notice some different background music tracks, which was nice. There was one particularly trumpet, burr, 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 which I kind of liked. Also, I was kind of like, no more Go-Go Power Rangers. But I also kind of liked it. I am kind of annoyed at they still keep using the remix Bulk and Skull theme for, like, the comedic characters, just like they did with Victor and Monty. That really annoys me, not just because of the attempted nostalgia wanking, but not just because of the attempted nostalgia, you know, pandering, but I feel like just let the comedic duos attempt to stand on their own and stop trying to signal to us, like, these are Bulk and Skull, basically. But that kind of bothered me, but other than that, I thought it was a very strong premiere. I definitely felt there was a difference from Ninja Steel, and I'm very hopeful because I think it set up a lot about the story and the characters that I'm really interested in. I liked the tone, I liked the vibe. I liked again, how connected it felt to the world. But I'm going to be cautiously optimistic because, again, I felt most of the seasons previous had a strong start. It was just after that they started to falter. So I think the true test will come in episodes 2, 3, 4 when we get into the status quo. But for as of right now, Beast Unleashed gets an 8.5 from me. Really looking forward to next week. Anyway, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for all my Power Rangers news, toy reviews, and episode reviews. Obviously now, Dawson Ryder, signing out.